for your blessing and help as we're gathered together to care for your creation, the city of Mount Juliet. We pray for your guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you would clearly show how we to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Bless this elected body of commissioners and administrators. Give them the desire to find ways to excel in their work. Help them to work together and encourage each other to excellence. We ask that we would challenge each other to reach higher and farther to be the best that we can be. Protect those that protect us. We ask this in the name of the Lord Jesus. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Our next item is approval of the minutes from the May 10th meeting. Have a motion? Second. Any discussion changes? All in favor of the minutes as published, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. Next agenda item is citizen comments. Anyone wishing to make a comment, ask that you come forward and give your name and address for the record. You'll be recognized for 3 minutes.
Good evening, James Russell, 238 Annabella Drive, Mount Juliet. And thank you, commissioners, mayor, and city officials, and thank you for the opportunity to make my comments. This is in regard to your upcoming vote on the 5-to-1 food-beer ratio. So my wife and I are here tonight because we are new residents of Mount Juliet. We've only been here a little over 2 years. We came here in part, greatly in part, because of the quality of life that this city offers. We came from a very large city in which the quality of life is not so good. It used to be good because once upon a time when I was a high school student, I would walk to the bus stop by myself. And my parents weren't worried about anything happened to me. Once upon a time when I was a young adult, I would go downtown. I would go to all the events and music events, and I never worried about looking over my shoulder going into a parking garage. Once upon a time in the past, as I got up older, women real estate agents in my city started getting concealed handgun permits because they started fearing for their personal safety. Also, once upon a time, not too long ago, in my hometown, alcohol sales receipts that went to the state comptroller totaled more than $134 million. That's just for 1 month. And in that same year, the DUI deaths in my hometown and my county were the highest in the state. Not so much once upon a time, but really now my hometown is a major portal for human trafficking. So what does this have to do with Mount Juliet? My point tonight is all of these changes in my hometown didn't happen in a weekend or a month or a year or even in 10 years. It happened pretty much over my entire childhood and adult life. Over time, city officials decided that income, revenue, was more important than quality of life. And every city has to make that choice, but I hope that this commission, when they are looking at issues such as the 5-to-1 food-beer ratio, you know more than I do that this won't be the first time that you're going to have to make a decision between quality of life and income or revenue, because we want Mount Juliet to grow. We want it to be an aggressive place in terms of businesses wanting to come here. But yes, you will have to make that choice between, is it better not to have a certain revenue if it preserves quality of life? And so your vote tonight is important, and I hope that somehow, even though you've already made a vote, which it appears that the majority of this commission has decided to strike down this law, I hope that you'd reconsider that, considering that there's lots of people in Mount Juliet that we want our quality of life to stay the same as the city grows, as you increase revenue for the city. And we hope that even if you vote against this, you'll think about it the next time as well, because we don't want it to be once upon a time in Mount Juliet.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the commission?
Hello. Name is Darren Cunningham. I live at 1401 Fairview Drive here in Mount Juliet. And I'm addressing you all this evening for what's on the bill regarding the reclassification for properties that are zoned that are less than 20 acres to allow for RM8 zoning. I'm a huge supporter of this. I think this originally was put in place with the right intention and to be readdressed at a later date. And I think the intention behind this was so that we wouldn't have a new apartment complex pop up on every piece of property that was, under 20 acres in Mount Juliet. And this is the time to readdress this. So what's being proposed is to take and allow for the under 20 acres, so between 10 and 20 acres, so over 10 acres, to allow for what would be townhomes. The RM8 is going to be townhomes. So that will not be apartments. Apartments are going to be stacked flats. There won't be single family fee simple real estate. They're going to be stacked on top of each other. So in the real estate and development world, which is where I work, that would not be, again, it wouldn't be apartments. So by default, the RM16 is already out of there. So that would not be the case. So the concern of that is alleviated. Secondly, it's my understanding that concern would be potential to have the entire community as a rental community, which wouldn't be a bad thing. I've seen some of these that are fantastic. They go in there and they'll irrigate the entire development. They'll make it look sharp. It'll actually look better than a lot of traditional neighborhoods because the ones they do nowadays are completely controlled. The rent money controls all the landscaping. It looks beautiful. So, but that's a side note. If a concern is about it being a rental community, then you all have control of that when you approve the PUD. So you can put in restrictions such as what things that you've done with, entities can't own more than 2 properties within the development and so on. So I think it's already been addressed. My biggest concern with this is we're in a city of growth and we've brought some amazing jobs here with amazing companies. The obvious is going to be the 3.8 million square feet of Amazon. That's a beast over there. But the average hourly worker there can't afford a house in the city of Mount Juliet that's brand new right now. Now, if you understand the pricing here in Mount Juliet, I pulled it up an hour before I came here. If you look on the multiple listing service, and as a broker, I have quick, easy access to it, you'll see that if you look at $400,000 in the city of Mount Juliet, period, look at available properties right now, there are 2 that are under 400K. There are 138 pending, and there are 159 that have closed in the last 3 months. That is a recipe for massive price appreciation here in the city of Mount Juliet. So to go back to my point about bringing jobs here, you bring jobs here and the average pay starting at 17 so an hour, go up to 20, 22, 24. The dual income households are making less than $100,000 a year at that income. That's the jobs that are here. Then how about all the people that work here? So you've got very noble professions of people that are here in the city of Mount Juliet serving us, but to say their starting point of pricing is $400,000 is tough. The down payment on that, if it's just 5% down, is $20K plus your closing costs. It's hard to save on those type of salaries and so on. So my point being, you see where I'm going with this. Affordability is already quickly a crisis here. And the only way you can't just make homes cheaper. You create opportunities such as higher density. This is a perfect opportunity to have higher density come to the city of Mount Juliet, otherwise would not be here by our current regulations, is not here. So by allowing this, you're allowing the police officer, school teacher, dual income household to buy a home in Mount Juliet and live here. And then maybe They progress on, that home goes up in value, they sell it, make a profit, use that as their down payment on the $400,000 or $500,000 house. So I'm 12 seconds over, I apologize. Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
sir.
night.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the Board of Commissioners? Name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Kendra Lyons. I live at 4817 Genoa Drive or at Tuscan Gardens. And I wasn't going to say anything, but I think that gentleman just kind of made the point that I've been thinking about because as he noted, I'm speaking on the 5-to-1 ratio you guys are voting on. And I agree with Mr. Russell. I'm so sorry, but I just moved here 5 months ago. I'm a refugee from Massachusetts, and we picked Wilson County specifically for the quality of life, and we wanted to raise a family here. Now, from November to now, the town has made huge changes and kind of a shock to me as, we came to the South for specific reasons. But in terms of this specific argument for the 50-50, I don't believe it's a sales tax issue. As he noted, you have a $3.8 million new facility. By the tax rates, I imagine it's bringing in $10 million a year just in property taxes. I don't know what sort of TIF or tax incentive you have provided to Amazon. Not even close. Yeah, I'm sure they got some sort of tax benefit.
Not from us.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But from somebody. You know how that corporate stuff all works. Plus 1,000 employees that are going to be working here, spending money here in the town. From what I understand, our sales tax coffers are full. As he mentioned, no home is being sold under $400,000. So I truly don't believe it's a revenue issue, at least from my perspective. I think this sounds like a really good short-term solution to our, again, 36% assessment and real estate taxes that everybody's probably crying about. But I think a long-term effect, what it could have on our county is significant. 1,600 DUI arrests in Middle Tennessee on a monthly basis. 68% are between the ages of 18 and 40. So really it's, I believe it's an issue. But that's just what I wanted to say. I think that revenue-wise, the county is probably doing pretty well. So I don't believe that it's about sales tax revenue.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, we will end citizen comments. Move to commissioner comments and reports. Vice Mayor, Mr. Justice.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to address some issues that I've discovered regarding an ordinance that we're going to be talking about tonight. One of those will be the new permit that we're talking about to be granted, that will be granted to entertainment venues, and the food to beer ratios and permit restrictions that those venues will be tasked to maintain. The other topic is the absolute intellectual dishonesty and dishonest behavior of some politicians attempting to place themselves in a favorable light more for re-election purposes rather than a substantial conversation, using facts to get away or get their way as opposed to just pure drama. First, regarding the permit itself, this particular license would be issued and subject to the same provisions as any other alcohol-related permit in our city. There's a lot of misinformation that's been put out there, and for that, I apologize. What we are doing here is to change the permitting process and put more teeth into it so that the police have more control and more power and can actually set down on some of the locations if they come in and not going by the rules. That's what we're trying to do here. The fees would be the same, but the enforcement would fall to the police department and anyone who files a complaint. For instance, sir, you got up and spoken, and thank you, by the way. I appreciate you doing that. But if you had knowledge that there is a venue out there that is an entertainment venue and they are causing problems, you, as a citizen of the city of Mount Juliet, have the opportunity to file a complaint and have them come before the Alcohol Beverage Board and explain why their license should not be revoked. Every citizen in our city has that opportunity and that right to do that. The ratio for the particular license we're talking about would be dollar for dollar. It's not eliminated. We're not talking taking away. All we're doing is talking about going from 80% food to 20% of beer, not alcohol, but beer. We're talking about going to 50-50. We're not taking it away. We're lowering it 30%. Other options would be in place so that if a place creates a history of being a public nuisance, the police department, the city manager, or any private citizen could issue a citation as such and then go before our city judge for adjudication. This would also create a complaint to the Alcohol Beverage Commission in the city, and then they would have the following 4 options. This is what their job is, and they came to us and complained that their options were limited. So when I took this to them and asked for their opinion, they nodded their heads that this was something that they could support. The options would be that no action be taken. 2 would be probation, determined by the Alcohol Beverage Board. 3 would be a suspension of the license, determined by the Alcohol Beverage Board. Or 4 would be a revocation of that license. If the citation or the complaint charged is egregious in nature, the city manager would then have the authority to suspend the license immediately, pending a hearing in front of the judge and the Alcohol Beverage Board. This was the plan that I took in front of the Alcohol Beverage Board, and it was met with enthusiasm. It gave them options. It gave them room to operate. The types of businesses that are included in this ordinance are, for instance, art galleries, bowling alleys, coin-operated amusement arcades, dance studios, exhibition halls, fitness centers, and reducing salons. That one got me. I don't understand where it came from, but gardens, botanical and zoological gardens. In this is also karate schools. I don't understand that one either. Motion picture theaters, recording and television production studios, theaters that are legitimate, for instance, plays and things of that nature. Video game arcades. Now, I will tell you that currently, based on the ordinance that we have now and the state law that we have now, the state law actually promotes liquor sales, which are by volume higher and more likely to impair a person's judgment and driving skills than beer does. But the state of Tennessee says it's dollar for dollar. What we're trying to do is to move that dollar to dollar for beer and liquor so that we're not promoting one or the other. Now, to address the other issue, Mayor, I apologize for going so long, but I'll wrap it up pretty quick. We have endured time after time politicians who make decisions using information that is either misleading or completely false. When a politician or a political person takes a poll on a Facebook site or introduces information into the community that is slanted, that person only has one goal, and that is to create drama. The truth of the matter is that our city created Providence Marketplace on the back of a referendum that allowed liquor by the drink. It wasn't here prior to Providence being here. The majority of voters in that election voted positive to this referendum and allowed for restaurants, and the owners of Providence Marketplace were able to proceed to closing as a result. Not one single person that I have heard complains about how robust that our revenues are, but they would have a stroke if we tried to raise property taxes. The revenues from Providence and those restaurants keep us from having to raise your property taxes. And those restaurants also have bars and they sell beer. We've been accused of working to promote one location, but I'm pretty sure it would surprise you to know that the venues who might realize less than favorable consequences are not the one that you would think, but both are actually south of the interstate. We should be making decisions based on the entire city and the best interest of our city 20 to 30 years down the road. Now, I'm a Christian. I do all the things that I can, and I try to do them the right way. I'm not perfect. Chief, or any of us? Didn't think so. However, it is not my job as a commissioner to shove my religious beliefs on the approximately 10,000 people that I represent. To those who want to stand on the mountain and scream to the high heavens that this amendment to the beer ordinance will send our city into the depths of hell, and please, please read Matthew 23, 2-6. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful to do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and then put them on the other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is done for people to see. They make their phylacteries wide and the tassels on their garments long. They love the place of honor at banquets and the most important seats in the synagogues. They love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and be called rabbi by others. Also, Matthew 23:24, you blind guides, you strain out a gnat, but you swallow a camel. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Commissioner District 2, Commissioner Trevitt.
Yes. Hopefully mine won't be that long, and appreciate it. It was great information, by the way. First of all, just like we'd like to thank Kelsey Glenn for the invite. Mr. Cody out there invited me out there to watch the runners. I did not run. However, I did witness one of our commissioners and another city employee did a great job out there. And me and my son, we had a great time. We met some awesome neighbors, made some new friends. And I believe that's what this is all about, is learning more about our community, learning more about our neighbors, and being a helping hand. So I think, Scott, congratulations. I think you placed 4th. You better step up your game next year, because the gentleman that placed number 1 was a Marine. He actually was pushing a stroller, so Scott did get lapped by a stroller.
Oh, wow.
Second place was Shane, which also a trainer. But then Scott did get lapped again by the 3rd place, which was another Marine pushing 2 kids in a stroller. So great job, Scott. You've got some goals set next year, and I will support you as being your coach. I will not be running next year either. But no, all joking aside, this last 2 weeks, I mean, our first responders, I just, every week, I'm very excited to know that I am blessed to live here in Mount Juliet. We had an event in my community, actually, where a boom truck took off, went down a hill with no one in it, and slammed into a building, or slammed into a house, I'm sorry. And our Mount Juliet Fire Department responded. They came in with the cavalry, and I was just amazed to see our team coming in and just addressing the situation. A few days later, we actually had another gentleman fly through our neighborhood, fleeing Mount Juliet Police Department, which again, our first responders came in and was able to address the situation, close off our community, and it just every time I see our first responders, like they're responding fast, they're coming in with a smile on their face, or taking a bad situation and trying to turn it around to be a positive. So, tonight, to see so many folks coming out to express their concerns, thank you. I really wanted to say congratulations to that other young lady that for the ROTC. That was just great to see our community really hitting some high goals and big accomplishments for Mount Juliet. So the last thing I got to experience last week was to be shot at by our tactical team, Mount Juliet, in the middle school. I guess condemned old middle school, I guess is what it is. They're getting ready to tear it down. First class. I mean, it was just, I had such a great time. I'm looking forward to going back. So just, if that says anything, our first responders, the officers, the men and women that are out there, we see their trucks and vehicles that are marked and unmarked. To actually see these folks out there, but then to see the folks behind the scene that are constantly learning their skills, just kind of tweaking them and sharpening their pencils. And I guess their aim, I guess the best way to put it, sharpening their aim. It's just very impressive. And to know that I can go to bed every night and know that my family and I can sleep is just very nice. So looking forward to more events like this, more invites to our communities. I've reached out to a few more to continue this form of communication, and I'll wrap it up with that. That's all I have, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. I think I would point out that you volunteered to be shot at.
Yes, volunteered.
Okay.
Yes. And I plan on doing it a second time.
Okay.
It was, yes, volunteered. Yes.
Just for the record.
Absolutely. You got me.
Commissioner Hefner. Thank you, Mayor. I was asked, but fortunately I was busy. So, but I will take you up on the next training round. So look forward to getting shot at. First off, I want to welcome my wife, beautiful wife, Cherie. She's in the audience today, along with my lovely mother-in-law and father-in-law, Brenda and Terry Reed. Appreciate you guys coming out. Yes, Kelsey Glenn, what a great event. Ended up raising over $1,200 to the City of Hope Foundation. So that was awesome. That was exciting to hear that. So huge success there. They're also already scheduling a turkey trot during Thanksgiving. So I'm looking forward to participating in that one. I guess I need to start training with baby strollers now. I guess that's
You better step up your game, buddy.
that's the key. I don't know. Yeah. So appreciate everybody coming out. Mount Juliet Police Department, you guys showed up. It was awesome. All the officers that came out and patrolled. Also want to thank Commissioner Mullally and Commissioner Trevette for coming out and hanging out with us. To that, I know we didn't get a lot of city employees showing up at the 5K, so I'm offering up another, I guess, challenge, if you will. This ties in with my gym, Orange Theory Fitness, Mount Juliet. So I have extended an invitation to the Mount Juliet Police Department, the Fire Department, and also WEMA, and any city employee. They're offering a free session Saturday, May 5th at 2:00. So look forward to, June. Sorry, thank you. My wife corrected me. June 5th, 2:00. So looking forward to filling up that roster. There's 26 spots available. If you need some information, we'll have some flyers around the city hall to get you some information on how to get registered. I will be there. So looking forward to seeing everybody come out. Need to mention, if you missed the newspaper, the Chronicle this week, I signed a lease on a new office space, Vintage Station North. This is for me to conduct business, city business, and for my constituents or anybody else in the city that wants to reach out and meet with me. I try to keep regular hours there, but the best way to get in touch with me is to schedule in advance. My contact information is on the Mount Juliet website, and call me or email me. Happy to host you at the office there. We got plenty of conference rooms and just really great first class job what they've done over there on those buildings. So I did want to mention that. Also, just a couple quick things. Amazon is hiring. I got an email from them today, and I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. They are offering starting pay of $15.50 an hour, day one benefits, health benefits. They're also offering $1,000 sign-on bonus for anybody that gets hired. So you go to amazon.com/TennesseeHourlyJobs.com. That's www.amazon.com/TennesseeHourlyJobs.com. And with that, I conclude my report. Thank you, sir. District 4, Commissioner Mullally.
Okay. I don't really have a report, but I would like to, again, thank Cadence for coming out and her family, and Mr. Clark. I can't think. Hold on. Sergeant Major Clark. Sorry, I'm used to Master Chief. My youngest son was in the ROTC at Wilson Central. So I kind of, I followed the schools on social media. So I saw this post and I thought, well, we got to get them down here. And so I was glad she came out so that we could recognize her. I also reached out to Master Chief at Wilson Central, but I was never, unfortunately, able to get in touch with him. I wanted to recognize that their ROTC program, so I'll just give a verbal recognition for them. They got a special recognition honor, their ROTC program, which is Navy. You received the Unit Achievement Award for this school year. This prestigious award is granted annually to the top 20% of schools in a given geographical area and is comprised of many metrics. Wilson Central High School is one of 11 schools earning the award that spanned across Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Tennessee, and Alabama. These students worked very hard this school year despite all the challenges they will all receive a special ribbon to wear on their uniforms next school year. And the unit will be awarded with the distinction banner. And this is the second year in a row that they've been able to achieve that award. So I just want to verbally give them a shout out as well. I'm not going to use my comments other than to say, I think Ray is just mad because this will be the fourth meeting that I have exposed his agenda behind this 5-1 and his personal interest in the situation. Property taxes in this city, he's always alluding to that and comparing it to sales tax, but property taxes in the city of Mount Juliet, 100% goes to Emergency Services Fund, which is the fire department. And thank you for the scripture lesson, by the way. But I want you to know the 5-1 has zero to do with religion. I posted the 5-1, what's on the table tonight, on social media for two reasons. One, primarily, number one reason, to let the public know what's going on in their city and to draw interest. Two, to explain my opposition and my valid reasons for opposing it. If I got one person to pay attention, whether they agree with me or not, then I accomplished my goal. And that's all I'm going to say in my comments, other than everything he said is going to be addressed when this comes to the table. That's it.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank all the residents who come out to speak today, address the Board of Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to do that. I want to thank the staff for the time that they put in on the budget. I know we've asked for a lot this time around, and finance director is agreeing. Asked for a lot. We've asked for a lot of things in there, and it's been a lot and a lot of changes in a week's time. So thank you for all that effort. Also want to commend the folks at TriStar ER here in Mount Juliet. If you're ever in need, Beckwith Road they're right there on Beckwith Road to help you out. If you ever find yourself at 2 a.m. in severe pain, go pay them a visit. They can help you out very quickly. I remember the ribbon cutting we had there a few years ago. Never thought I would wind up there, but I'll leave with that. And the last thing I want to say is congratulations to the class of 2021. You guys have had the last couple of years have been a lot to go through. And I know high school can be a tough enough time as it is. And to go through everything that you guys have gone through, if you can survive high school, I think you positioned yourself well to make it in the world, living through everything that you've been through, in and out of school, home, online, everything else. You've been flexible. You've been great. And, we here as parents and commissioners and others, just really been impressed by the example that you put forward, and look forward to seeing you and what's going to happen in the future. So with that, City Manager, your report, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, especially these fine folks on the front. They probably thought I was running for something, because when I saw them, you couldn't look at these folks. You couldn't help but go over there and talk to them. And so I want to thank y'all for coming tonight. And in particular, I'd like to thank my wife, who's watching tonight. And I wanted to make sure that Commissioner Hefner understood that my wife was an English major and got her master's in guidance. And so you can imagine being married to me, it's constant correction. So I want to thank her for that, because there's a lot of things I used to do that I no longer do thanks to her. So thanks for the ladies looking out for us and keeping us straight. But in particular, I want to thank our elected body in 31 years plus for this city. I want to thank our elected body for the wonderful job that you've been doing in general, overall, in every shape, form, or fashion, and in particular with last Monday's budget workshop. The tools that you've given us in recent months, especially since the tornado, are invaluable in a multitude of ways. And I can't thank you enough for that. For somebody that's been here a long time, that's not to say that we haven't always got the tools that we needed, but we realize those tools don't come unless the Board of Commissioners approves it, and they don't come unless you have the citizens who are out there that help fund those things by patronizing their local businesses and supporting this community in every way that they can. That's what's so important about these mom and pop businesses. I get the blessing of getting to work with a lot of businesses every day. They're looking to come to our town, and I get these stories of where they're basically getting massive loans or spending life savings to open a business in our community. And thankfully, just give an example, just recently, we've had a couple of businesses that opened up. One of those is the ML Rose, and it's been packed since they opened up, which is good. And we want to continue that for all of our business, all of our mom and pops. And when you think of the sales tax in our budget, these things don't happen without our citizens and those that come to our community because they feel safe and they love this city to spend their money here and then go back to wherever it is they live. So I want to thank everybody that's involved, including those that are home. I always say this hokey thing. It's hokey when you say that, but in reality, what makes up this community is not necessarily just City Hall or our elected body or our staff. And I want to thank our staff because they do an absolutely phenomenal job. But I want to thank our citizens for the partnerships that we have that makes this community so special. Everybody thinks our community is special, but I know this community is special in so many ways. So I just wanted to, I felt like that's needed. And a lot of times in our society, there's so many things now that are negative. It's important for folks to know what our elected body does and how often we have to call on you and wear you out. And we know you're busy, and we appreciate you making sacrifices and your lovely spouses making sacrifices in your families on our behalf. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, we'll get into the business portion of the agenda. Our first item is unfinished business 9A1, an ordinance of the City of Mount Juliet to amend the Mount Juliet City Code, Chapter 4, alcoholic beverages, to delete Section 462.3, on-premise consumption, beer permit, issuance requiring, and Section 467.10, suspension and revocation of permit authority.
Motion.
Have a motion?
Second.
A motion and second. The item is on the table.
I would like the floor.
Well, let's, does the sponsor want to speak first?
If you don't mind, there is, do we have the email? Where is that at? Okay, but we don't have it here at all. Okay. Yes, sir. Again, and I will apologize for this, but there has been some misinformation put out there. Part of this was because this particular piece of information was not available. So what I would like for you to read is the difference between what was originally proposed, and I'm going to ask Gina who would please to keep us going the right direction on this. What was originally proposed and what we have come back with is the amendment that was originally opposed would be to lower the existing ordinance from 5-1 to 250-1. And that is not being what's proposed now. In fact, what we are asking is that the beer permit would stay the same for restaurants and basically the way it is right now. What we are asking is, and I say we, this is myself and Commissioner Hefner co-sponsor this. What we're asking is that there be a new permit that would be issued or be available for issue, meeting criteria. And I apologize if it's going out over the microphone. I'm sure I was driving somebody crazy. That would be 1-for-1. So basically 50-50. This would be for entertainment venues only. And I gave you a list earlier. I'm going to read that list again. Art galleries, commercial art galleries, bowling alleys and billiard parlors, coin-operated amusement arcades, dance studios, schools, exhibition halls, and commercial auditoriums where exhibits might be looked at, art exhibits or museum pieces, fitness centers and reducing salons, gardens being botanical and zoological gardens, karate schools, took karate for quite some time. I was never allowed to drink beer there. I'm not sure where that one comes from, but motion picture theaters, recording and television production studios, theaters, legitimate theaters that are where plays would be put on, Shakespeare, things of that nature. Theatrical producers, bands, orchestras, and entertainers, video game arcades. These are some of the events. Top Golf would be an example of an entertainment venue. Currently under our ordinance right now, Top Golf could not come into Mount Juliet at all because they couldn't meet the beer ordinance criteria. Dave & Buster's, I've been there a couple of times, like the place, but they would not have an opportunity to come into Mount Juliet. That's what this is allowing, is for opportunities for these places to come in. That is actually what I am offering as an amendment to the ordinance. I'm assuming, Gino, is that actually, would that be a separate amendment or would that be a separate ordinance? I mean, that's an amendment to the ordinance, correct?
This will be the first reading because this is
Major change. Correct. Yes. Matter of fact, the ordinance amendment itself, under section 4-55-permits, and I will make this as an amendment. Activities defined under the land use definition of entertainment and amusement services limited. The example being such as Dave & Buster's and Top Golf, as well as venues that provide live music at least 2 nights per week and do not fall into any other more specific land use definition. That would be inserted into section 4-55-permits. Section 4-62 on-premises consumption beer permit issue requirements would be, is that the same language, Gina?
Yes.
Okay, and number 3 would be added, same language. Sheila, you've got a copy of this for the minutes, correct? Under section 6, correct. 6 would be entertainment and amusement services limited. Subsections 1 through 4 of this section shall apply to entertainment and amusement services limited. However, whenever a ratio of beer to food sales is used in this ordinance, the ratio required for entertainment and amusement services limited shall be modified to require that at least 50% of the gross revenue of the establishment, keep this in mind, please, 50% of whatever place would have to be generated from the serving of meals and or admission user fees. Okay. And I believe we would add the uses to the back of that. That is my amendment. Mayor, I'm sure there will be further discussion, but I'll let somebody else start it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Commissioner Mullally?
I have a question. I just found out about this at 4:00 today, but had no idea what it was. What was on the table was to remove the 5-to-1 and replace it with the 50-50. So again, I had no idea what was going to be proposed here tonight. I have a lot of questions. I'd like to make a motion to defer so that this can be studied further.
I'll second. Right.
We have.
Do you have any, are you finished?
Well, we can vote on the motion. If that's a,
Okay, I'll open the floor for discussion on that motion to defer. Vice Mayor?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
As our city attorney has pointed out, this actually becomes, because this is a major change to what we initially, the compromise that we initially said was 2.5-to-1 as opposed to 5-to-1. Okay, so anybody who says that there was no attempt at a compromise is just not being honest. But so what we're saying here is we're leaving it at 5-to-1 and we're creating a new permit, a new opportunity for a permit for the businesses. Now, what we're discussing here is the reasoning behind wanting a a deferral. And because it's significant change, being a major change, this is first reading.
Correct.
So, I mean, there's additional time
Well,
for
here,
this to be talked about. So,
well, I guess my question is why are we even moving forward then with the item that's on the agenda? Why don't we just scrap that one and then bring this back properly posted as an ordinance for first reading when people have time to read it first?
I'll defer to my co-sponsor on this, and if he doesn't have a problem with it, I don't have a problem with it.
I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, we would rather the entire thing see the light of day and be discussed intelligently rather than using fact or innuendo, to get something killed.
Well, we got to vote with our hearts and minds.
Yeah, sometimes
Also has something.
you're half right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just want to say, at first reading, I was willing to compromise, and I threw out there, what about a 4-1? Nobody bid. I couldn't even get a discussion going about it. I was the only one that offered a compromise. But I commend both of y'all for getting together to come up with the compromise. One, for keeping the 5-1, which is what I wanted, and looking at a way to bring in the entertainment. That's good. That's great. I commend both of you for that. That's a compromise, so that's good. We're definitely headed in the right direction. I'm a person that likes to study. I don't like to make on the moment decisions on something that I haven't had time to study. So I really would like more time to study that. Let me just say, in case you're not aware, what this 5-1 is actually. Here in the city of Mount Juliet, there's been a policy in place since the early 2000s. It has been supported by every BOC to date. That policy is a 5-1 food-beer ratio for every sit-down restaurant, food establishment that serves beer for on-premises consumption within the city limits. The perfect purpose of it back then was to keep bar-like places, some people refer to them as dive bars, out of the city and encourage sit-down establishments. And again, when we talk about beer, what we're referring to is any alcohol less than 8%. The 5-1 ratio has nothing to do with liquor and which has more than 8%. So to clear that up, the liquor does not apply to the 5-1. It's only about beer. That does not mean that you have to order food when you go out somewhere. You can go to anywhere that has an on-premises beer permit and sit and drink beer. What it does mean is that the food establishment businesses themselves have 12 months each year to meet $5 in gross food sales for every $1 of wholesale beer sold. It has nothing to do with patrons. It has everything to do with how the business operates and the standards they have to meet. Last year in 2020, there was one establishment out of 55, which actually is 56 now, that did not meet the 5-1 ratio, who, by the way, was the only one that didn't meet it. The Alcohol Beverage Board gave them an extension with another opportunity to be in compliance. They still didn't meet it. It then came before the BOC, and we voted to revoke their beer permit at the recommendation of the ABB for 6 months, which would complete 1 year as stated in city code. That states where a beer permit is revoked, no new permit shall be issued to permit beer on the same premises by the same business until after the expiration of 1 year. Fast forward in November of 2020, Ray and Scott presented an ordinance amendment to give this establishment a new beer permit when they would have been issued a new one in January of 2021 anyway, which was about a month and a half before. So I don't want to read all this, because if this is going to be a compromise, that's great. I'm all for that. But I spoke against it and voted against it for reasons. I thought they were appeasing and catering to one business. So if you're willing to keep the 5-1, that shows me that you're not doing that. So that's great. I commend you for that. Just give me a minute because I'm not going to read all this. Okay, it has been alluded to that this 5-to-1 ratio is hindering music and entertainment businesses from coming to Mount Juliet, such as something comparable to Top Golf and Dave & Buster's. What do music and entertainment venues have to do with the 5-to-1, since their primary source of revenue would be entertainment and not beer? I would like more information on that from legal. I've yet to define why they're not coming here. It has not been confirmed anything about the 5-to-1. No one really knows, to be honest. All right. I'm going to have lots of questions when this comes back to the table as far as being a music entertainer. I do not believe there is any chance something that a Top Golf would ever come to Mount Juliet. Nashville has over 1 million people. Top Golf doesn't even have a presence in Knoxville yet, even though they're trying to expand there. They would never pick somewhere like Mount Juliet with 40,000 people over big cities. That's where their money comes from. Dave & Buster's is only 19 miles away. Why would they expand and open another one just 19 miles away, or even move to a small city with only 40,000 people? So ultimately, this is not about entertainment, really. The 5-to-1 is about keeping bars and dive bars out of the city, which was the initial intent of it. That's what the 5-to-1 is for. It has been suggested that the 50-50, which hopefully we won't even have to discuss that anymore, except for, again, I do have tons of questions on the entertainment side of it. When you talk about a 50-50, that it would give PD more teeth to cite venues if they're causing problems. That's an odd statement to me to make. So it was also suggested to tighten up in enforcement to pull beer licenses under public nuisance laws. Which, what are public nuisance laws? We already have a system in place through the ABB to pull beer permits, beer licenses. We already have one in place. A perfect example is what happened last year. The system worked until the system was overruled and reversed. So the argument on that is the nuisance laws, to me, is just hypocritical. It doesn't make sense. What are nuisance laws? Are we talking about bar fights, DUIs? PD already enforces those. Seriously, how would a 50-50 give PD more teeth? Perhaps they could explain. I would love to know. What are nuisance laws? Barking dogs, dog deposits left, neighbor conflicts, property issues, dirt bikes, oak carts, overgrown lawns, refuge, bar fights, burning. So I really would like to have PD come up and help explain how that would give you more teeth.
Well, Commissioner, we're on the deferral right now.
Right. But I wanted to clear the air on some things. I also would like to break down the liquor tax revenue, because it was stated on social media that 50% goes to the school system. So let me break it down for you. The mixed. I'm going to clear the air, and I have the floor. No, I'm not going to take my comment section and do all this. This is what, when it comes to the table, is what it's for.
Sorry, everybody. We should really stay on topic for deferral on this. And I know you've got a lot to say on this. And to call for question, you need to be recognized at first. So,
May I?
But
okay, this is about education.
Well, this is not an
public.
educational body. This is the Board of Commissioners.
Right. But what is it we're doing? Do they really understand?
I I can't. They look like very smart people.
I've
to
been
me.
advocating from day one that I was going to help educate the public and help them to understand what we do up here and why we do it.
Yes, I understand that's a point, but
Okay, let me just say this. The wholesale beer and liquor tax directly that the city gets from distributors, that does not go to the school system. So to clear that up. So that's good. I had a compromise offer that I was going to bring to the table as well. So since you've already brought one, I'm not going to bring that up. So just to say this, if you're here, please don't leave because something else is coming up on the agenda. It's 11.1. It could potentially have create multiple pockets of apartments and townhomes popping up all over the city. So I would encourage you to stay. If you're watching online, please stay tuned. And so that's it.
thank you. Vice Mayor Justice.
Call for question, Mayor.
I'll second that. All in favor of closing debate and voting on the deferral signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. So at this point, I'll call for the vote on deferral. All in favor of deferral for one meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and it is deferred. Oh, I feel like I need to catch my breath. Ordinance 9A2, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-21 budget ordinance 2025 to appropriate funds for the design and construction to serve sewer for developments in the West Division corridor. I'll make a motion. Second, the item is on the floor. Anybody got any debate, discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Under new business, Resolution 11-1, a resolution approving amendment to agreement between the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee and Tennessee Department of Transportation for the Woodridge Place Sidewalk Project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. I'll make a motion. A motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes, sir.
Changes are being made.
It looks to me like it's just opening the window up so we can capture more of a match. But we'll speak to it.
This project was completed roughly a year ago. We've paid all invoices on the project. If you recall, about a year ago, we did a budget amendment to add additional city funds on the project because we had some cost overruns. Well, since then, I've been able to obtain some additional grant funding. So I'm actually saving the city about $57,000. So this is what this is. This contract's adding the additional grant funding so we can get reimbursed.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And this is Ordinance 11-1 on first reading, an ordinance amending Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, known as the Zoning Regulations, Ordinance 2001-29, adopted October 8, 2001, as amended by amending Article 8, Overlay Districts, Section 8, 2071, minimum size of residential PUD, Plan Unit Development Districts, by amending the section to include a 10-acre minimum gross area requirement from RM8 residential planned unit developments.
Motion.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. It is on the floor. Does anyone wishes to be recognized? Mr. Hefner?
Thank you, Mayor. So what we're doing essentially is we're taking RM8 out of the 20-acre restriction. What I'm proposing is to take RM8, which is traditionally townhomes, out of the 20-acre minimum, which it currently sits on. As you heard earlier, maybe during citizen comments, if you weren't watching, we're bringing a lot of businesses into Mount Juliet that are creating a lot of jobs, great jobs, in fact. But the problem is we don't have a lot of housing. I think Mr. Cunningham had mentioned there are 2 houses for sale in Mount Juliet that were under $400,000. It doesn't make sense to me that we would create these jobs only to have the people working in our city move or find housing in Lebanon, Old Hickory, Davidson County, somewhere other than Mount Juliet. They come here, they work, they use our infrastructure, they turn around, they leave, they go home, they spend their tax dollars in their city where they live and not in Mount Juliet. To me, that seems, doesn't seem fair or right to me. So we're simply creating an opportunity for smaller developers, especially local ones, because when right now at 20 acres, you're really cutting out a lot of local developers, and we have a lot of great developers here, the Robinsons, the Patels, really cutting a lot of those out. So by creating a 10 minimum acre requirement for RM8 affords the opportunity for those developers to come in and develop nice communities. These are all have to go through as a PUD. So the Board of Commission, this body, ultimately has a say-so in what's approved and what is not approved. We have also the ability to dictate, to a degree, what the quality of that housing development looks like. I strongly support this. It's much needed. 5 acres is too small. 15 acres, in my opinion, doesn't move the needle enough. So therefore, that is the reasoning and the logic behind the 10 acres for RM8. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone wishes to speak in opposition?
Ladies first.
Commissioner
You
Mullally.
sure?
Absolutely.
It'll take me a minute.
On the time you keep, Travis. Sorry.
All right. What does affordable housing mean? Well, that depends on who you ask. Let me give you some history. Last September, the Planning Commission voted to give a positive recommendation after many deferrals to say that multi-use developments, which include apartments, townhomes, condos, whether for sale or rent, in zones RM8 and RM16, had to be a minimum of 10 acres. Prior to that, there wasn't a minimum. So it also increased the green space from 7% to 10%. Also in September and October, the proposed legislation came to the BOC for first and second reading. It passed both times, second time by 4-1. Former Mayor Haggerty had added an amendment to increase the minimum to 20 acres. It was supported and approved. And as a side note, all multi-use developments must come in under a PUD, a planned unit development. And even though Ray voted to approve at first reading, he also did express concerns of property owners who have smaller lots of land who might want to develop. So he put it on the table, his concerns. And so because of his concerns, especially with the 20-acre minimum, he voted no at second reading. So I say to that, he's never changed his position on that. So kudos to him. However, it was a majority of vote that did get approved. So here we are 6 to 7 months later, and they're pushing to overturn and reverse a legitimate BOC vote. What they want to do is reduce the minimum acreage for multi-use down to 10, just as he said, under R8 zoning. So this was on the Planning Commission agenda last Thursday, and I was there and spoke against it. It passed with 1 abstention. So as a result, it's before the BOC tonight for a vote. Commissioner Hefner was appointed to the Planning Commission, who now serves as vice chair. Good for him. His talking points are property owners with smaller tracts, giving local developers opportunity, bringing in affordable housing, giving many of the 3,000 new Amazon hires a place to live, and promoting townhome growth. But also on the Planning Commission are 2 local developers. One recused himself from the vote because he thought it would be a conflict of interest. So I commend him for doing that. I also pointed out last Thursday at the Planning Commission that the city cannot discriminate between townhomes and apartments or high rises, as stated by the city attorney. I brought this up and he confirmed it. In other words, if a local developer wanted to put apartments there as opposed to townhomes, the city cannot discriminate. During citizen comments, Darren had said apartments would not be an issue. So if we can't discriminate, I don't know how apartments cannot be an issue. Perhaps Gino can give some input in a minute. I'm all for giving local developers opportunity, but you can't tell me that any developer is going to be willing to build townhomes and or apartments or sell or by selling or renting them under market value. Developers are in the business of making money. I don't care who they are. They're in the business to make money. It's not even feasible to build affordable housing for 3,000 new Amazon hires. Scott says they're going to move elsewhere because they can't afford or can't find places to live here, even if it's a rental. The demand for housing is all across Middle Tennessee, not just in Mount Juliet, and I don't believe our current apartment complexes are filled to capacity. I have a local developer just outside of my district wanting to build, and he has 15 acres. He did not call me wanting to reduce the 20 acres minimum to make it easier for him. He is trying to acquire 5 more acres so that he can meet the minimum. He is complying with the ordinance, with the law. Let's talk about affordable housing. After I'm done, I would like Scott to explain what he means by affordable housing because it's a big umbrella and very complicated. My idea is common sense. To me, where I live in Belinda City, that's affordable housing because you buy what you can afford. Even though my value has gone up, it's still affordable. My assessment came in at $203,000. Some in Belinda City are below that and some slightly higher. I couldn't afford to live in Providence or Jackson Hills. So you buy what you can afford. Some know that affordable housing means subsidized housing. If that's what he's proposing, then that's a big fat no. So I really hope it's not. If affordable housing is a bad thing, or is affordable housing a bad thing? In the right place? No, it's not. It's needed. And what I'm referring to also when I say subsidized housing also applies to single family in addition to the multi-use. I don't want to give opportunity for subsidized housing here in Mount Juliet. Mount Juliet isn't ready for that, in my opinion. Does it exist here? I started doing research on it and hit a brick wall. So if anyone knows how to find out, please contact me because I would love to do the research. If Scott is just talking common sense approach, like my view, excluding subsidized housing, then once again, developers are not going to sell or rent under market value. So I'm not the affordable housing. Hold on, I got a misprint. So I'm not sure the affordable housing argument would really apply there. So would love to hear further explanation on that. I had a guy call me from Connecticut wanting to bring affordable housing into Mount Juliet. And I don't think there's any question what he was talking about, subsidized housing. There's an article that just came out in WSMV, headline, 400 affordable housing units go up in Nashville. Mayor Cooper has been pushing for affordable housing ever since he got in office. I don't think there's any question what he means by affordable housing. No poor person or any person making a salary under the poverty level, or maybe even slightly more, can afford a home in Nashville without subsidized housing. No, you cannot. The same would apply to Mount Juliet or anywhere else. Is it a problem? Yes, it is. What's the solution? I don't know. It's above my pay grade. But when I was a single mother of 2, I didn't make much money, but I found a home that I could afford, and I could afford the monthly payments. So after I'm done, I would like Scott to tell us if he thinks this is such bad legislation, and you can answer when I'm done. Were you at the Planning Commission meeting last September when this was on the table? I was going to go back and look at the videos and I just ran out of time. I didn't have time. So you can let us know that when this came up at the Planning Commission last September, were you there to speak against it? You were a resident and also a candidate for your seat at the time. So if you were there, good for you. If not, where were you if you thought it was such a bad, a bad law? Also, he had 2 other opportunities to explain why this was bad for the city at 2 BOC meetings. And I know he wasn't there. So if this is so bad, where was he then? So let me tell you why I'm opposed to overturning a previous BOC decision and reducing the minimum acreage for apartments, townhomes, and condos, including high rises down to 10 acres. There are going to be multiple pockets of 10+ acre tracts all over the city with apartments and townhomes, whether they're for sale or for rent. It could literally explode. Their argument is because it's a PUD, we can make decisions at the BOC level. One concern of mine is, what if for sale townhomes are sold and converted to rentals? And they said, well, you still can't own more than 2. So think about it. If I owned 2 and wanted to rent them out, my husband could buy 2 more under his business LLC. That's 4. What if I have an LLC for my business and bought 2 more under that banner? That's 6. Where does that end? So the 2-person ownership could potentially have a huge loophole. So I'm not sure that argument can hold water. This zoning of RM8 can either be apartments, townhomes, high-rise condos, or apartments. We cannot discriminate according to Gino. I believe this is another bad direction to take the city, and I'm opposing it for good reason. Okay, I relinquish the floor.
All right. I'm going to stop right here and say this. The calling people out by name up here, this board we operate a little informally, but under Robert's Rules of Order, everyone needs to address the chair and quit making addresses to each other. And name calling by first name, let's be professional up here. So with that, Commissioner Hefner.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. Let me set the record straight. Could have saved about 20 minutes of that speech. I'm not suggesting subsidized housing. This is not what this is about. Affordable housing, to me, is something less than $400,000, which we currently don't have in the city of Mount Juliet. Even as a resale, we have 2 houses for sale. That's what I'm referring to as affordable, not subsidized. So don't put words in my mouth, please. Please, I've got the floor. We already address the apartment issues or the rentals with communities through the PUDs. Yes, it's limited to 2 homes per entity or individual, but we also add a maximum not to exceed 10% of the total development. That was voted on recently. A Wintry, you participated in that. Everyone on this board participated in that vote. I voted against it. The townhomes is what this is geared for. Can somebody build an apartment complex on it? I don't know. Probably not. I think most of the apartment complexes that are coming in to make it feasible, make it cost beneficial is somewhere probably north of 17 acres. And Jennifer Hamlin can maybe correct me on that. But I want to address the pockets of developments that this would create and the benefit, I believe, and Andy Barlow, I'm going to ask him to step up here and address this and what the pockets of these smaller communities, 10-acre communities, will do to help alleviate some of the traffic in Mount Juliet. Thank you, Mr. Barlow.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think one of the things to think about as we think about these sizes of developments as pertains particularly to how land uses interact with one another. if you have a large swath of residential without any commercial, then obviously you're going to create farther distances for the people who live in those residents to travel to, in our case, particularly commercial. Opportunities that you might have with smaller type pockets, I think we've had some. Hibbett Station's a good example. It's more than likely going to be adjacent or very close to some commercial development. So with that, you've got smaller areas, some smaller tracts of land along Mount Juliet Road, probably Lebanon Road as well, that would qualify for these. I know that our planning staff has looked at this in the past, so I defer to them for that. I think what's most important to consider here is land uses and how that mixes. I think as we get into land uses with the Planning Commission and the future land use plans, something very important to consider. However, so with that being said, there's a lot more control there. But when we think about mixes, the more mixed use type development, the more pocket type developments that we can have, residential mixed in, interspersed with some commercial, then the better off our transportation system is going to be, because we're reducing the length of the trips it takes for those homes, specifically to home to commercial, home to restaurant, those types of uses.
Thank you.
District 2, Mr. Dredd.
Yes, thank you. This has all been great discussion tonight. I was wanting to see if Ms. Hamlin would be able to come up. I just had a couple quick questions, if that was okay. Thank you. Hello, thank you. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion tonight back and forth, and I just want to clear up a few things. So with the comment of the multi-use, the rentals, and, of course, when it comes down to, one family purchasing, more than one home, obviously, with the folks that are on actually either in the room or watching, we just want to make sure that we can get some clarification. I don't know if that was from you or Gino, but my biggest concern is making sure that we at least share that the Planning Commission does have the ability to put rules in place for these developments before they do kick off. Is that correct?
Well, you guys, as the Board of Commissioners, has the ultimate control of those PUDs.
Correct, but it would come to
Planning Commission first
Planning
as a
Commission first.
recommendation body to you guys. Yes, sir, where you have the ultimate decision on approval.
And you would go ahead and start to explain some of these rules, what the board's, vision is for the city, and you would pretty much kind of cut it off at the stop. And then, of course, if it got to us, we would then go ahead and make the ultimate decision. Is that correct?
Correct. You guys have no idea how many projects that I get calls about that you never even see. I mean, I probably get 3 or 4 calls for development every day that you never even see. It just doesn't make the cut.
And just as a range, what are those ranges that you're getting calls? Is it 5 acres, 10, 15?
It's around 5 acres
Okay.
for the multifamily.
For the multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So obviously this is going to create some additional load with your team if we do move this down to 10 acres. Is that
I
correct?
think that's what I told Scott the other day. I was like, oh my gosh, you might be opening Pandora's box. But as Andy spoke about Hibbett Station and the Patel property, I think they're great developments, and they're not quite the 20 acres. So I hate to cut our nose to spite our face on some of these.
Yeah.
Those are really great developments, and they're not 20 acres. Will it make my job easier to say you can't come here if you don't have 20 acres? Yes, because that's like literally I can say, I'm sorry, but your project doesn't meet our, requirements. Next,
Yeah.
So it makes my life a little easier, but I'm not sure if that's exactly what is best for everybody. So I'm okay with the 10 acres. That's what we recommended originally when this came through, I believe about 18 months ago. We did a poll on surrounding cities, and most all of them were 5 acres or what we had, which was no minimum.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're
We really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
So if you don't mind, just one more. I won't take as long. I just want to make sure it's on record. Obviously, Mount Juliet's growing. Are our city manager and the rest of this board has done a lot to bring businesses into the city. And we've listened to some of the homeowners tonight, address their concerns, and they're all valid. My biggest concern is making sure that we bring in the quality families for Mount Juliet, and that we can continue on the same path. And man, I'll tell you, I'm sitting here and I'm getting I got 3 phones up here tonight, and there's a lot of folks watching this, this meeting, and I'm getting back and forth text messages as I'm trying to not multitask because I'm terrible at it. And me being new on the board, there's a lot of good valid points here tonight. But at the same time, what we all need to realize is that there's the Planning Commission board does a great job. I was able to sit in on a few of their meetings, a lot more here recently than in the past. And they step up when they need to step up. They hold these contractors accountable. These meetings are open to the public. I would ask that anyone that's concerned about this topic or future projects, and maybe these, if this does pass tonight for the 10 acres and you're going to have one of these developments come near your property or maybe your community, you should be here. You should be voicing your opinion. Get your neighbors involved. If you want to just see our city continue to grow in the direction that I've been seeing it grow in the last 8.5 years that I've been here, you need to get involved. This board up here right now, they're always available. All of us are. And that's one thing that I was really excited about being part of this, is to always be available. And there's a lot of frustration tonight. I can feel it in the room. My stress level up here is just listening. But you know what? Everyone's passionate about what it is they're trying to accomplish. And I think, to me, that says a lot about this board. There's a lot of passion that's up here. And I commend all of you. Not that you need it, but, for being a new board member, thank you for being passionate for this city. And with that, I conclude my comments.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'll add on this. I don't know that taking it to 10 acres is a bad thing, and we've got lots of areas that could develop if we did do so. There's no question that there's a need for housing in the area. I guess my thing that makes me a little apprehensive is just, do we need to do it right now? We just made these changes a few months ago. We got some things in the budget that are coming through with road impact studies. I know Commissioner Hefner was been working hard on getting that done, and some other pieces. We've got some new roads under construction. We got widening in place. So for me, it's not so much a no as what's going to be a no vote, but it's not so much out of opposition, but it's just more of a maybe not now. Commissioner?
I would like to get Gino's input and verification that if this were to pass down to 10 acres, can or cannot RM8 zoning have townhomes and apartments and high-rise condos and high-rise apartments? Since you stated we cannot discriminate.
You can't discriminate between rental and townhomes. As to whether or not someone would build a high rise, you've only got 8 units on this acre. So there aren't many high rises with only 8 units.
No,
So
but it is an option.
It's not. It can't be put on. It's only 8 units. So if there's 14 or 12 or 9 units in a quote high rise, then they can't exist on this property.
35 feet?
No,
Is that
it's
what it is?
the 8 units. The RM8 is what, it's not the height, it's the RM8. As to apartments, it's just a matter of cost. And I defer to the experts in real estate on that, but my sense is the price per unit that you're going to have to charge as rental to make up for the price of that land would be prohibitive if you're not going to build a townhouse and sell it and take your profits there as opposed to making your profits from rental. That's my layman's opinion dealing with real property, some of my own, that the price of these. Now, can somebody come in and buy 8 townhomes and rent those out? Same way that they can buy 8 houses on Humpty Dumpty Boulevard in Mount Juliet and rent those out. So, it would depend. But with the PUD that they would come in, we can restrict it. And I was just looking at a recent Attorney General's opinion, allowing those restrictions for a homeowner to allow restrictions for the rental. Because when people buy the townhome, they agree, I'm going to abide by these agreements and these provisions. So, and that would be part of the PUD that we could enforce. So that would be the restriction on apartments.
So, okay, I don't understand how we can keep out apartments.
You can't say absolutely no apartments, but you can ask the homeowners association, the developer, to, as part of this approval, to voluntarily incorporate that into their bylaws. And it's their choice whether or not they want that as part of their HOA or they can go someplace else.
Okay.
So, Gino, thank you for that information. And there is still a lot of questions that I have that I think that in all reality, I don't think it would be fair to our community for me not to ask for a motion to defer for at least 30 days for me to get this information and to get back with a few of our planning commission folks and validate that that I can get all the information before I make this vote. Is that?
I'll second that. So we have a motion on the floor to defer for 30 days, and I seconded. Do you have any?
No.
Okay. All right.
Short, simple, sweet.
We ready to vote on deferral? All right. All in favor of deferral for 30 days signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries by a vote of 3-2, deferred for 30 days.
Mayor, if I may, if anyone has questions on any particular item, if you shoot them to Charles and me, and I'll find somebody that can get you an answer.
Yeah, I'll have a list in the next 24 hours.
Sounds good.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 2021-22 budget. I'll make a motion. It's seconded and on the floor. We ready to vote?
Actually, I have one.
It's worth a try.
Mine's a really easy amendment. After getting with Dana, of course, we actually have included a 6% COLA plus 2%, which is a merit increase. And I believe that is in this budget. Is that correct? That is included in there. What I would ask as an amendment as that that by the way, we covered the impact of that was about $650,000 to the budget. 2.5, I'm sorry.
And 38,000 is the additional to get all of the salaries
Correct.
to 95%, but that's separate from the 6% COLA and the merit. That was already in the budget at the workshop. So the additional 600,000 is to get the salaries to within 95% of average.
Okay. All right. That's the additional part though.
Right.
Correct. And that comes to 2.5%.
Yes.
Correct. So what I'm going to ask is that between now and next meeting, that we would actually take and ask city manager to come in with a budget that reflects a 2.5% decrease in the budget that does not touch the employees' benefits or doesn't hurt what we're doing with the COLA increases, and it does not do anything that will stop the additional new hires coming on board. So
is that a motion or just a request?
I'd like to make it as a motion, but I'm not sure how I'll go about doing that.
I'm-
So look at the city attorney and
I'm
his
struggling
ultimate
with the
wisdom.
procedure on that.
I think a request would be.
And let him bring it back in for the motion to be
Bring it
made.
back, and then you can make your motion to approve.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would like for that motion to be something that the board as a whole would consider and say, yeah, that's a good idea. Well, I mean, we are increasing $650,000. So, I mean, with a straw poll, Mayor, or you tell me, I don't know how to do it.
Well, how about we ask the city manager here?
Yeah, Mayor, that would be difficult at all for the commission. I could sit down and get with the department heads, look through the budget and try to come up with a number and then come back with some recommendations for the Board of Commissioners to consider with your comments in mind.
Well, again, keep in mind, I'm not going to recommend any specific item be cut from any specific different or department. All I'm saying is that if we're increasing by us taking their salaries up to that 95% position, I would like to be able to cut down and take 2.5% out of the overall budget.
Yes.
Okay, not just, I want to make sure that their salaries are not affected. I want them to get their raise, and I want their benefits to make sure that the benefits are top notch. And I want to make sure that we don't affect, hiring new police officers, new firefighters, or public works employees, parks employees, things of that nature. I want to make sure that that's not involved in any cut that you might do. So
yes.
That would be my request. How about that?
And that's the way, and I would think you would bring your proposal back and then the board could consider it on second reading.
My personal belief is you are the city manager.
Yes.
You'll find whatever, that 2.5%. We don't need to go in and start,
And the one thing
micromanaging you.
The one thing good is if I go too far, you can always put something back in.
Yeah, I don't think that's a major.
Yes, sir.
Before we vote on this, I just want to thank everyone that took the time to come out and really put time into this budget. I've heard the I don't want to say horror stories, but I want to just say that coming out of our tabletop exercise, I guess is what I would call it, the work that the budget team or the accounting team, I guess, put it all together. I want to give credit where everybody, I'm like wherever I can, and of course the city manager and his team. This is just, it's impressive. So I just want to give some kudos out there. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
I got one comment. I'm excited about this budget for some reasons that probably aren't known to the public. First and foremost, and I'll be real quick too on this. I had an opportunity to look at the pay study and identified it's pretty much across the board. Our city employees are grossly underpaid. When you compare those to a 15-city municipality average, that pay study took into account 15 cities by position and benchmark that against what we're paying our employees. After looking at that, sat down with staff and Dana Heyer, Director of Finance, and I feel we've come up with a really good, go forward plan to correct some of those much needed gaps in our pay study. So thank you very much for doing that, working with me to get that done. So appreciate it. Well, you're quite welcome.
You did a great job on
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Scott.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry.
City manager, do you have something else to add?
Yes, sir. And I wanted to got another shout out here because it's important to note. For one, is I want to thank the elected body for working with staff, in particular, to keep safety #1 priority in the city of Mount Juliet. I think our ranking currently, chiefs, is 4, maybe. And our goal is to make it #1, which I know that's the direction of our elected body, which we plan on doing. But also like to thank you for putting infrastructure so highly in this budget this year as well, as you've done in recent years, but even more so this year. And also with our IT services. And I know a lot of times IT gets lost in these kind of things, but if you think about it, there's cities all across the country that their IT services are getting attacked and basically being held for ransom in some shape, form, or fashion, to where they're having to pay out large sums of money. So when you think of IT, you don't sometimes think of that. You think of the recent issues with the pipeline and having to pay ransoms. And Mr. Travis Taylor in the back there and his team does an absolutely phenomenal job with that, because y'all have all heard some of those horror stories. And of course, at least, last but not least, our team and Miss Dane and everybody else that contributes to this budget. So that's important for me to note, because infrastructure is such a big thing with sewer and roads, things like that, and everything's in the budget this year. So I want to thank you for that.
All right. Thank you. I guess we're ready to vote. All in favor of the budget on first reading signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So I guess that goes on consent agenda. Better not.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, our normal procedure, if something passes on first reading unanimously, we bring it back on consent agenda, but probably make an exception for this one would be wise to do. Our last item on the agenda is 11.3, an ordinance authorizing the reestablishment of a building exemption jurisdiction fee in the Emergency and Community Services Fund of $30,000 for each story over 3 stories. Actually, I think it does read each story over. Anyway, I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, it is on the floor. This is under city manager's sponsorship, so I'll ask you to speak to this real quick.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. There was just some confusion in the way that it was written, and it may have been just unintended confusion, but when that was established originally, or at least I was under the impression, for every 4 over a 3rd story, they would pay that into the fire department budget at the time. I know Gino's got some comments about how that could be associated as far as the tools. And the reason it was done that way is Mount Juliet typically had not had the taller structures. You know, and of course, the fire chief would tell you don't necessarily fight a building like that with ladder truss, because if you get a building that's 30 stories tall, say, for example, like it would have a national, they fight those internally. And Chief, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's why they outfit the building with certain tools. So these monies were meant to go, again, to keep people safe, not only the folks that live in this community, but the folks that come and travel to our city, and the hotels. Our high school, for example, are now, all 3 of the this end of the county are all multi-story buildings. So it was gone to offset that so that they would help pay back some of the burden on the community, or the impact. So I hope that makes sense. And I see it as an awfully good thing, is to have these developers. I don't see it putting a negative impact in any shape, form, or fashion on economic development. If somebody comes in, it's actually cheaper for them to go vertical and just do story on top of story. And you're seeing that a lot now, especially downtown with Vintage Station North. I think when they came in, for example, it's 5-story, they were requesting 6, and that small addendum, I guess you'd say, to what it would have cost them wouldn't have been so much that they decided not to build here. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Our city attorney, there was some question about this as to where the money should be allocated to. Are you comfortable with the way this ordinance is written?
One quick thing I would add is that the developer agrees to pay the greater of the fee of $30,000 for each story over 3 in the proposed building, or the $30,000 fee for each 11-foot of building. So the greater of those 2. No, it's fine as long as it ties it to a particular service. What you have to avoid is making this a general fund type fee. So if it's limited to firefighting apparatus or equipment to knock down a fire in these higher buildings, then that's fine. It'll go into a separate fund as opposed to
we
the general
need a
fund,
separate
which
one.
would be a tax. And if the tax, you have to do lots more than this.
I know our finance director loves separate funds.
I'll help you with it.
Okay.
So all the money's collected needs to go into a separate fund earmarked for fighting fires in
high-rises.
buildings over 3
These over
stories.
3 stories.
Do we need to make an amendment to capture that in there?
We can play with it before approve that, and then we'll clean it up before the second.
Okay.
reading.
And I'll make a motion to add the greater of the 2 in there per your suggestion. All right, we got a second. All in favor of the amendment to add the greater of the 2 fees signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. Any other discussion, comments, questions? All right, all in favor of the ordinance as once amended signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, any opposed, abstentions? That passes. Next item on the agenda is called adjournment. And if there's no objection, we will be adjourned.